The Great Hall of Nexus Prime had seen many decisions across the millions of years. Its crystal walls held the memories of 1,000 civilizations. But today something different filled the air: fear, anger, and the sound of voices raised in argument. At the center of the hall stood the human delegate. Ambassador Sarah Chen looked small compared to the towering aliens around her. The Zephyrians with their blue skin and 6 arms, the rock-like granites who moved like mountains, the gas cloud beings called whispers who spoke in colors. 12 ancient races sat in judgment. The humans must go, declared first speaker Vorthak of the hegemony. His voice boomed across the hall like thunder. They have been members of our council for only 50 years, yet they cause nothing but chaos. Sarah stepped forward. We cause solutions. When the Centauri plague threatened to kill billions, who found the cure? When the solar storms threatened the outer rim, who built the shields? When refugees needed homes, who terraformed the dead worlds? That is exactly the problem, hissed Counselor Sek of the Reptilian Union. Her forked tongue tasted the air. You solve problems too quickly, too roughly. You do not follow our ways. The first speaker activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above them. Ships, weapons, planets being torn apart and rebuilt in days instead of centuries. Look at their methods, he continued. Where we study for decades to understand the perfect solution, they act in months. Where we seek harmony and balance, they force change. They are chaos itself. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. Chaos? We saved the Zephyrian homeworld from that plague in 6 months. Your careful studies had been going on for 30 years while people died. 30 years. The Zephyrian delegate, council member Nexar, shifted uncomfortably. His blue face showed shame. It was true. His people owed their lives to human medicine. But the other council members stared at him with cold eyes. The humans do not understand patience, spoke the ancient voice of Keeper Moonsong from the Eternal Republic. She had lived for thousands of years and moved like slow water. They rush, they push. They break things that have worked for millions of years. Worked? Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. You call this working? While you debate the perfect solution, entire civilizations die. While you study the proper way to help, children starve. While you seek balance, the universe burns. The air in the hall grew thick. The alien members of the council looked at each other with silent understanding. They had made their decision before this meeting even started. First speaker Vorthak stood. His massive form cast a shadow over the human delegate. The vote has been called. All in favor of expelling humanity from the Galactic Council? One by one, hands and claws and energy fields rose into the air. The hegemony voted yes. The Reptilian Union voted yes. The Stone Lords voted yes. Even the peaceful flower people voted yes with their petal hands shaking. Only one vote came for the humans. Council member Nexar of the Zephyrians. His people remembered who had saved them. 11-1, Vorthak announced. The humans are expelled from council space. You have 1 galactic year to remove all your people, all your ships, all your influence from our territory. Sarah stood silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm. Too calm. You are making a mistake. A terrible mistake. You think peace means doing nothing. You think wisdom means moving slowly while people suffer. You think harmony means never changing anything? She looked at each council member in turn. Some met her eyes. Others looked away. We came here 50 years ago hoping to help. We thought we could make the galaxy better. We thought we could save lives and build a future worth living. But you only want to preserve your perfect little system where nothing ever changes and nobody ever takes risks. The human delegate walked toward the exit. At the doorway, she stopped and turned back. You are old. All of you. Millions of years old. You have forgotten what it means to care about tomorrow instead of yesterday. You have forgotten what it means to fight for something better instead of accepting what is. Her voice grew stronger. But we will not forget. We will take our ships and our people and our chaos and go beyond your borders. We will find new worlds. We will help new civilizations. We will build something better than this. She paused, and her next words would be remembered for 800,000 years. And someday, when your perfect system fails, when your careful balance breaks, when your slow wisdom cannot save you, we will be back. Not because you call us, not because you ask us, but because somewhere in this galaxy people will be dying and we cannot let that happen. The door closed behind her with a soft sound. The Great Hall fell silent. Months passed. Human ships gathered at the edges of council space like a silver fleet. Millions of people, thousands of vessels. the entire human civilization preparing to leave forever. The other races watched nervously. Some felt relief, others felt doubt. A few felt something they had not experienced in a very long time: regret. On the last day, the human fleet sent one final message to the Council. It was short: "We leave now as you wished. We take with us our medicine that saves plagues in months instead of decades. We take our engineering that builds worlds instead of just studying them. We take our chaos that solves problems instead of managing them. You have chosen order over life. You have chosen process over people. You have chosen your comfort over their suffering. Enjoy your perfect peace. Enjoy your careful wisdom. Enjoy your slow, thoughtful way of letting everything die while you debate. We will remember you, all of you, but not with kindness. When we return, and we will return, remember that you chose this. Remember that you sent us away. Remember that you could have had us as friends. The universe is wide and full of wonders. We go now to find them. Without you." The message ended. The fleet vanished beyond the rim of known space. In the great hall of Nexus Prime, the council members sat in silence. They had won. They had preserved their ancient ways. They had removed the chaos that threatened their perfect order. First Speaker Vorthak looked satisfied. "Good. Now we can return to proper governance. Slow, careful, wise." But in the back of the hall, Council member Nexar of the Zephyrians stared at the empty space where the human ships had been. His people lived because humans acted fast instead of thinking slow. His children breathed because humans broke the rules instead of following them. "What have we done?" he whispered to himself. The question would echo through the centuries, through the millennia, through 800,000 years of careful, thoughtful, perfect failure. The humans were gone. The galaxy was safe from their chaos, and somewhere in the dark between the stars, a civilization that refused to let people die while others debated began to grow into something the Council could never imagine. Something that would return. Something they would regret. 800,000 years had passed since the humans left. The Galactic Council now had 847 member species instead of 12. The Great Hall on Nexus Prime had been expanded 17 times to hold them all. But somehow, with all these voices, everything moved slower than ever. Junior Counselor Zektar of the Altrurian delegation sat in his small office, staring at reports that made his head hurt. The Kepler system was dying. Its star was cooling too fast. 3 billion people lived on the worlds around that star. In 50 years, they would all freeze to death. The Council had been studying the problem for 30 years already. They had formed 12 committees. They had written 4,047 reports. They had held 6,329 meetings, and they were no closer to a solution than when they started. Zektar pulled up another file. The Vega colonies were losing their atmosphere. Ancient machines built by a long-dead civilization had kept the air breathable for millions of years. Now those machines were breaking down. The Council had been aware of the problem for 60 years. They had scheduled a vote on potential solutions for next year. Another file. The trade routes through the spiral arm were collapsing. Space itself was becoming unstable in that region. Hundreds of worlds depended on those routes for food and medicine. The Council had appointed a study group to examine the issue. The study group had appointed a subcommittee to study the study group. Everywhere Zektar looked, he saw the same pattern. Crisis, committee, study, report, debate, subcommittee, more study. More reports, more debate. And while they talked, people died. His door chimed. "Enter," he called. Counselor Yathara of the Gentle Current flowed into the room. Her energy-based species appeared as a shifting cloud of silver light. "Still reading the failure reports?" she asked. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "Someone has to." Zektar gestured at his screen. "Do you know how many crises we are currently managing?" 47. "Do you know how many we have actually solved in the last century?" 3. Yathara's light dimmed. The Council prefers to think of it as careful consideration. Careful consideration? Zektar laughed bitterly. "We are so careful that we think for decades before acting. We are so considerate that we debate while civilizations fall. We are so wise that we study problems until they solve themselves through mass extinction." He stood and walked to his window. Outside, the great city of Nexus Prime stretched to the horizon. Millions of aliens from hundreds of worlds, all part of the vast council bureaucracy, all very busy doing nothing useful. I have been researching our history, Zektar said quietly. The old records. From before my people joined the council. Ythra floated closer. What did you find? Do you remember the Scorvan crisis? 300 years ago? Their homeworld was about to be destroyed by volcanic activity. The council studied the problem for 50 years before deciding to evacuate the population. I remember. It was considered a great success. Zektar turned to face her. I found older records. From before the humans were expelled. Do you know what they did when the Quilarian homeworld faced the same problem? Ythara's light flickered with curiosity. They fixed it. In 6 months. They did not evacuate millions of people. They did not relocate an entire civilization. They went to the planet and fixed the volcanoes. They saved the world itself. That is impossible. The energy requirements alone? Is it impossible? Or did we just convince ourselves it was impossible because we forgot how to actually solve problems? Zektar pulled up more files. The Centauri plague. When it first appeared 800,000 years ago, the humans cured it in 6 months. When it came back 3,000 years ago, it took us 400 years to develop a treatment. Hundreds of millions died while we carefully studied the perfect solution. Ythara was quiet for a long moment. You are talking about the banned ones. I'm talking about a species that was expelled for solving problems too quickly. For acting instead of thinking. For saving lives instead of following procedures. They were dangerous, chaotic, violent, were they? Or were they just effective? Before Ythara could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the building. Emergency lights flashed. The communication system crackled to life. All council members to the emergency session hall immediately. Priority Alpha crisis detected. Zektar and Ythara rushed through the corridors along with hundreds of other delegates. The emergency hall was chaos. Screens showed star maps. Alert signals blinked red across dozens of systems. At the center of it all, First Speaker Korath of the modern hegemony raised his voice above the noise. Order! Order! We have a situation that requires immediate attention. The hall fell silent. Korath activated the main display. A section of space appeared above them, marked with moving dots. Long-range sensors have detected a fleet approaching from the galactic rim. Size, approximately 10,000 vessels. Technology, unknown. Speed, impossible. Murmurs filled the hall. 10,000 ships was larger than most council fleets, and they were moving through space faster than any known engine could travel. Energy signatures are unusual, continued Korath. Our analysts believe they match no known council technology. However, there are similarities to very old records, very old. The display zoomed in on one of the approaching ships. It was massive, larger than anything the council had ever built. Its design was alien yet somehow familiar. Estimated time to council space, 6 months. Recommend immediate preparation of defensive measures and diplomatic protocols. The hall erupted in voices. Some called for military action. Others demanded more study. A few suggested sending messages. Zektar stared at the display. The ship design tickled something in his memory. He had seen something like it before in very old files, very old records from the time before. His species had joined the council to records. From the time when humans still lived in council space. His blood turned. Cold, Counselor Ythara, he whispered. Yes, I think I know who is in those ships. Who? Zektar looked at the massive vessels moving through space faster than anything should be able to move. Ships that looked like they had been built by a species that refused to accept the word impossible. The Chaos Makers, he said quietly. The problem solvers. The ones we expelled for caring too much and acting too fast. Around them, the council continued to debate. They formed committees to study the situation. They appointed subgroups to analyze the threat. They scheduled meetings to discuss the meetings about the meetings. And in the cold dark of space, the human fleet continued toward home. After 800,000 years of exile, after 800,000 years of growth and change and evolution beyond anything the council could imagine, they were coming back, and Zektar had the terrible feeling that the council was about to discover what 800 millennia of human innovation looked like. What 800 millennia of human problem-solving had produced what 800 millennia of human refusal to accept failure had built. The galaxy was about to change, whether the council wanted it to or not. The ship that dropped out of hyperspace near Nexus Prime was the size of a moon. It appeared without warning, without sound, without any of the energy signatures that should come with something so massive moving so fast. One moment empty space, the next moment impossible architecture hanging in the void. Emergency alarms screamed across the council capital. Defense fleets scrambled. Communications arrays went wild trying to process what their sensors were telling them. The ship was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Its surface seemed to flow like liquid metal, but also like living tissue, but also like pure energy. It was all three things at once somehow. Shapes moved across its hull that might have been windows or eyes or doorways to other dimensions. Behind it, more ships appeared, thousands of them. Each one different, each one impossible. In the council emergency chamber, First Speaker Korath stared at the displays with growing panic. "What are we looking at?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," reported Scanner Chief Vex. "The ships register on our instruments, but the readings make no sense. They appear to be solid and energy and empty space all at the same time. That is impossible." "Yes, sir. But they are doing it anyway." On the main screen, something was happening to the largest ship. A section of its surface was changing, forming what might have been a docking bay or might have been a mouth opening to speak. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Tharp. "Source, the lead vessel. Format, unknown, but... Wait. Sir, they are speaking Old Galactic, the diplomatic language from before the Great Standardization. Put it through." The voice that filled the chamber was human, definitely human, but different. It carried harmonics that should not exist in a single voice. It sounded like one person and 1,000 people speaking together. "Greetings, Galactic Council. This is Echo of Earth speaking for the human collective. We request permission to dock and address the assembled representatives." Silence filled the chamber. 800,000 years since humans had been seen in council space. 800,000 years of legends and warnings and stories used to frighten young diplomats. First Speaker Korath found his voice. "This is First Speaker Korath of the Galactic Council. Identify your intentions." "We have come home," the voice replied simply. "We have come to help." "Help with what?" "Everything. We have watched from beyond the rim. We have seen your struggles. We have seen your failures. We have seen civilizations die while you debate. We are here to offer solutions." Korath looked around the chamber. Other council members were arriving, their faces showing the same mix of fear and confusion. The humans were expelled from council space. That expulsion still stands. We are not the humans you remember. We have grown. We have changed. We have become something new. But we have not forgotten our promise. And what promise? We said we would return when you needed us. You need us now. The transmission ended. The massive ship began moving toward Nexus Prime with the same impossible grace it had shown in arriving. Defense satellites locked onto it and found they had nothing to lock onto. The ship existed, but somehow did not exist in any way their weapons could understand. 3 hours later, a shuttle emerged from the human vessel. It was small compared to its mothership, only the size of a building. It moved through space like a fish swimming through water, flowing around obstacles that were not there. The shuttle docked at Council Station 1 with a soft sound like wind chimes. The airlock cycled, and humanity returned to council space. The being that emerged did not look entirely human anymore. Echo of Earth had the basic shape of a human, but their skin seemed to contain tiny stars. Their eyes held depths that went on forever. They moved like liquid light, and when they spoke, the air itself hummed with harmonics. Behind them came others. Some looked more human, some less. One appeared to be made of living metal. Another seemed to be a collection of geometric shapes that somehow added up to a person. A third looked exactly like an ancient human, except for the fact that they occasionally became transparent. The council delegation that met them was led by First Speaker Korath himself. Beside him stood Junior Counselor Zektar, who had requested to be present for historical documentation. Both aliens found themselves struggling to process what they were seeing. "You have changed," Korath said finally. Echo of Earth smiled, and their smile contained galaxies. 800,000 years is a long time. We have learned much. We have grown much. We have become much. What are you now? We are what we always were. Problem solvers. Life preservers. Builders of tomorrow instead of guardians of yesterday. But we have become very good at it. They walked through the station corridors toward the great meeting hall. As they moved, The human delegation seemed to analyze everything around them, not with instruments but with senses the council could not understand. "Your atmospheric recyclers are failing," mentioned one of the humans casually. "Efficiency is down to 67%. We could fix that in an afternoon." "Your gravity generators are misaligned," added another. "Must be causing minor health issues for your population. Easy repair." "Your quantum tunnel stabilizers need recalibration," observed a third. "Actually, your whole infrastructure is about 40,000 years out of date. We could upgrade everything in a few weeks." Korath felt his pride bristle. "Our systems work perfectly well." "They work," agreed Echo of Earth. "But they could work better. Much better. Why accept functional when you could have optimal? Because optimal is expensive, difficult, dangerous. Only if you lack the technology and knowledge to do it safely. We do not lack these things." They entered the great meeting hall. The assembled council members stared at the human delegation with expressions ranging from wonder to terror. Many of them had never seen a human before. Humans existed in their culture only as stories of chaos and disruption. Echo of Earth stood at the center of the hall, in the same place where Ambassador Sarah Chen had stood 800 millennia ago. "Honored council members, we have returned to offer our assistance. Your galaxy is failing. Systems are breaking down. Civilizations are dying. We can help." First speaker Korath activated the ceremonial shield around his speaking platform. "The humans were expelled from council space for good reason. You brought chaos, disruption. You refused to follow our laws and customs. We brought solutions. We brought life. We brought progress. You chose to see these as chaos because they threatened your comfortable stagnation. We chose order over anarchy. You chose death over life." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Around the hall, council members shifted uncomfortably. Some looked angry. Some looked ashamed. Some looked thoughtful. Junior Counselor Zektar stepped forward. "What kind of help are you offering?" Echo of Earth turned to him, and Zektar felt like he was looking into the heart of a star. "The Kepler system. 3 billion people are going to freeze to death because their star is dying. We can fix that star, restore it to full fusion. Add another billion years to its life. Time needed, 6 days. Gasps echoed through the hall. Repairing a star was considered impossible. The Vega colonies. Atmospheric processors failing. Ancient technology breaking down. We can build new processors. Better ones, self-repairing, self-improving. Time needed, 2 days. The spiral arm trade routes. Spatial instabilities causing navigation hazards. We can stabilize space itself in that region. Create permanent safe passages. Time needed, 1 week. With each offer, the hall grew quieter. These were crises the council had been studying for decades. Problems they thought might take centuries to solve if they could be solved at all. All we ask, Echo of Earth concluded, is permission to help. First speaker Korath stood silent for a long moment. Around him, council members whispered urgently. Finally he spoke. We must deliberate. This council will recess for discussion. How long? Asked Echo of Earth. These are complex issues. Consultation is required. Analysis must be done, perhaps 6 months? The human delegation looked at each other. When they turned back to the council, there was something like sadness in their impossible eyes. In 6 months, Echo of Earth said quietly, the Kepler system will be dead. 3 billion people will be frozen corpses. The Vega colonies will have suffocated. The trade route collapse will have spread, cutting off dozens of worlds. That is regrettable, but proper procedure must be followed. Proper procedure. Echo of Earth repeated the words like they tasted bitter. 800,000 years and you still choose procedure over people. They turned to leave. At the doorway they paused. We will wait for your decision. But we will not wait while people die. If you refuse our help, we will find other ways to provide it. What does that mean? It means we have learned patience. But we have not learned to watch suffering when we can prevent it. The humans left. The council began to debate. And in space around them, impossible ships began to move toward dying stars and failing worlds, with or without permission. The emergency session had been going for 18 hours. In the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, council members argued while their galaxy died around them. We cannot allow unauthorized intervention, declared First Speaker Korath for the 100th time. The humans have no legal right to act within council space. They are saving lives, protested Junior Counselor Zektar. The Kepler system report just came in. They did something to the star. It is burning bright again. 3 billion people are alive because of them. Unauthorized lives saved through unauthorized means, snapped Counselor Prime Minister Vexnath of the Hegemony Coalition. This is exactly why we expelled them. They ignore our laws. They act without permission. They disrupt the natural order. On the great display screens, reports were flooding in from across council space. Strange phenomena, impossible repairs, miracles that the human ships left behind wherever they went. The dying star at Kepler had been relit. Not just stabilized, but improved. It now burned cleaner and stronger than it had in millions of years. The process had taken exactly 6 days, just as the humans predicted. The Vega colonies had woken up to find new atmospheric processors already installed and running. The machines were so advanced that council scientists could not even understand how they worked. They simply produced perfect air and would continue doing so for the next million years. On 37 different worlds, failing infrastructure had been mysteriously upgraded overnight. Power grids that had struggled for decades now ran at perfect efficiency. Transportation networks that had suffered constant breakdowns now moved like clockwork, and nobody had seen the humans do any of it. They are ghosts, reported Admiral Thex of the Council Defense. Our ships try to intercept them, but they phase out of normal space. Our sensors track them one moment, lose them the next. They appear, complete their work, and vanish. Then how do we stop them? Demanded Vexanath. We do not, said a quiet voice from the back of the hall. All heads turned to see Counselor Nexar of the Zephyrians. The old alien rarely spoke during sessions, but when he did, others listened. Counselor Nexar? Prompted first speaker Korath. I was there, Nexar said, standing slowly. 800,000 years ago. I was there when we expelled them. I cast the only vote in their favor. The hall fell silent. Most council members had not realized that any current delegates dated back to the original expulsion. I remember what they were like then. Young, passionate, rough around the edges. But they saved my people from the plague that would have killed us all. While this council debated and studied, humans acted. They found a cure in 6 months that we could not find in 30 years. Nexar walked toward the center of the hall. I have lived for 800,000 years since that day. I have watched this council grow from 12 species to 847. I have watched our bureaucracy expand. I have watched our procedures become more complex. I have watched our debates become longer. He paused, looking around the hall. And I have watched us become completely useless. Angry voices erupted. Delegates shouted objections. First speaker Korath called for order. Nexar continued speaking over the noise. How many crises have we solved in the last century? How many lives have we saved? How many problems have we actually fixed instead of just managing? We maintain peace, shouted Prime Minister Vexnoth. We maintain stagnation, Nexar replied. We maintain our own comfort while civilizations die waiting for our help. The humans were right to ignore our procedures. Our procedures are killing people. The argument might have continued forever, but it was interrupted by an urgent alert. The main screen activated, showing a priority message from the Zephyrian homeworld. The planet appeared on the display, but something was wrong with the image. The world looked different, greener, brighter, more alive. This is Governor Yith speaking from Zephyr Prime, came the transmission. I am reporting a situation that requires council attention. Our world is healing. The camera panned across landscapes that had been barren for centuries. Now they bloomed with plant life. Rivers ran clean where pollution had choked them for millennia. The very air seemed to sparkle with health. Unknown vessels appeared in orbit 3 days ago. The governor continued. They made no contact with our government. They simply began working, repairing our ecosystem, cleaning our oceans, restoring extinct species from genetic samples we thought were lost forever. The display showed incredible footage, massive machines that seemed to be alive themselves, working with impossible precision to heal an entire planet. They moved like living things but built like engineers. They planted forests that grew to maturity in hours. They cleaned polluted water that had been toxic for generations. We tried to communicate with them, Governor Yith said. We received one message in return, a debt paid. Your ancestors helped ours once. We do not forget. The transmission ended. The hall fell silent. Counselor Nexar spoke into the quiet. They remember. After 800,000 years, they remember that we voted to save them from expulsion. And they are repaying that debt by saving our world. This is exactly the problem, Vexnoth said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. They act without permission. They change things without consultation. They follow no law but their own will. And they save lives while we debate whether to save them, Zektar added quietly. More alerts were coming in. From across council space, reports of impossible interventions. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They appeared where they were needed, did what needed to be done, and vanished before anyone could stop them. Trade routes that had been failing for decades were suddenly stable. Ancient warning beacons that had marked dangerous space for millennia went silent as the hazards they warned of simply disappeared. On remote colony worlds, failing life support systems found themselves upgraded beyond the dreams of their designers. Food synthesizers that had struggled to feed thousands now effortlessly fed millions. They are rewriting our galaxy, whispered Communications Officer Tharp. Fixing everything, making everything better. And we cannot stop them. Why would we want to stop them? Asked Zektar. Look at the reports. Look at the lives saved. Look at the problems solved. This is what we should have been doing all along. Because it sets a precedent, Vexnoth replied. If we allow them to act without our permission, others will do the same. What happens to order? What happens to law? What happens to our authority? What happens to authority that cannot protect the people it claims to serve? Nexar asked in return. The debate was interrupted by the arrival of a message addressed directly to the council. It came from the human flagship, still hanging in space near Nexus Prime like a small moon. Echo of Earth's voice filled the hall, as harmonious and impossible as before. Honored council members, we understand your concerns about unauthorized intervention. We respect your desire to maintain order and follow proper procedures. We do not wish to undermine your authority or disrupt your systems. A pause. In that pause, the weight of 800,000 years seemed to settle over the hall. However, we made a promise when we were expelled. We promised to return when you needed us. You need us now more than you have ever needed anyone. Your galaxy is failing not because of war or disaster, but because of inaction, because of fear of change, because of procedures that prioritize process over people. We have saved 17 civilizations in the past 3 weeks. We have prevented 4 stellar collapses. We have repaired infrastructure on 137 worlds. We have done this not to show our power, but to show our purpose. We do not need your permission to help people who are dying. We do not need your approval to fix things that are broken. We do not need your authority to act according to our nature. But we would prefer to work with you rather than around you. The message ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. Finally, First Speaker Korath spoke. What are you saying? Echo of Earth's response came immediately, as if they had been waiting for the question. We are saying that we have evolved beyond the need for your governance. We are saying that we will continue to help those who need help, whether you permit it or not. We are saying that after 800,000 years of watching you fail, we have decided to succeed without you. If you work with us, you can be part of the solution. If you work against us, you will simply be irrelevant. The choice was clear, and for the first time in 800,000 years, the Galactic Council had no idea what to do, because the humans were no longer asking permission. They were just acting, and there was nothing the Council could do to stop them. The vote was 623 to 224. The Galactic Council had made its final decision. The human fleet is declared a hostile force, announced First Speaker Korath. All human vessels are ordered to leave Council space immediately. Any refusal will be met with military action. Prime Minister Vexnoth stood triumphant at his speaking platform. The Nexus defense grid is now active. These ancient weapons have protected our capital for millions of years. Let the humans test themselves against the power that has kept peace in our galaxy. Around the Great Hall, supporters cheered. This was what authority looked like. This was how proper order was maintained. The humans would learn that law and procedure were more powerful than their chaos and innovation. Junior Counselor Zektar sat in his chair, feeling sick. Beside him, Counselor Ythara's energy form flickered with distress. In the back of the hall, old Counselor Nexar of the Zephyrians simply closed his eyes and waited. The Nexus defense grid was the most powerful weapons system ever built. massive energy cannons that could destroy entire fleets, particle beams that could crack planets in half, force fields that could contain stars themselves. The weapons powered up with a sound like thunder. Energy readings went off the scale as ancient technology awakened from its slumber. Warning alarms echoed across Nexus Prime as the population was ordered to emergency shelters. On the main display, the human flagship hung in space like a small moon. Beautiful, impossible, completely unaware that it was about to be destroyed. "Fire!" ordered First Speaker Korath. The Nexus defense grid fired. Energy beams that had once shattered attacking armadas lanced through space toward the human ship. The beams struck their target with the force of a dying star and passed through it without effect. The human flagship continued to exist exactly as it had before. The most powerful weapons in Council space had done absolutely nothing to it. "What happened?" demanded Korath. "Why did our weapons not fire?" "They did fire, sir," reported Weapons Officer Kett. "Full power, direct hits, but the target shows no damage, no energy absorption, no reaction at all." "That is impossible." "Yes, sir. The humans appear to be doing it anyway." On the screen, something was happening to the human flagship. Its surface was changing, flowing into new configurations. Shapes appeared that might have been weapons, or sensors, or something else entirely. Echo of Earth's voice filled the council hall. When they spoke, they sounded tired. "Honored council members, you have just attempted to destroy our vessel with your ancient weapons. We are disappointed but not surprised. After 800,000 years, we had hoped you might have learned something about the futility of violence. Your weapons cannot harm us. Not because we are protected by shields or armor, but because we exist partially outside the space that your weapons can affect. We learned long ago how to step aside from attacks rather than simply endure them." The display showed more human ships appearing around Nexus Prime, not arriving from somewhere else, but simply becoming visible. They had been there all along, watching, waiting. "But we did not come here to fight," Echo of Earth continued. "We came here to help. We came here to save the galaxy you have been failing to protect. We came here to offer you partnership in building something better. You have chosen instead to shoot at us." Prime Minister Vex Noth activated his speaking platform. "You are invaders. You ignore our laws. You act without permission. You threaten everything we have built." "What have you built?" Echo of Earth asked, and their voice carried the weight of worlds. "What have you actually built in 800,000 years?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. "You have built bureaucracy. You have built procedures. You have built committees and subcommittees and study groups and analysis groups and review boards. You have built a perfect system for doing nothing while calling it governance. But what have you actually built? What problems have you solved? What lives have you saved? What futures have you secured?" The hall fell silent. The question demanded an answer that nobody wanted to give. Echo of Earth continued. "We have spent our exile building new worlds, building new life, building new forms of existence itself. We have become gardeners of reality, tending to the growth of consciousness and possibility throughout the universe. You have spent the same time building reasons why problems cannot be solved." On the screen, the human ship was changing again. Its surface flowed like water, like light, like thought made visible. When it finished changing, it no longer looked like a ship at all. It looked like a living thing, like a creature of pure possibility swimming through space. "We have evolved beyond your ability to understand us," Echo of Earth said. "We exist in dimensions you have no names for. We manipulate forces you consider theoretical. We solve problems by rewriting the basic rules that create those problems. But we have not evolved beyond caring. We have not grown past compassion. We have not become too advanced to remember what it means to help someone who is suffering." The human fleet began to move. Not away from Nexus Prime, but toward it. Toward the heart of Council space. Toward worlds that needed healing and stars that needed tending and civilizations that needed saving. "You cannot stop us," Echo of Earth stated simply. "Your weapons cannot touch us. Your laws do not bind us. Your authority means nothing to us. We have become something you cannot control, cannot contain, cannot comprehend. But you could have had us as allies. You could have worked with us as partners. You could have been part of the solution instead of being part of the problem. More and more reports were coming in from across council space. Human ships appearing everywhere. Ancient problems being solved in hours. Impossible repairs being completed while no one was looking. They were not conquering the galaxy. They were healing it. World by world. Star by star. Life by life. This is intolerable, Vexnoth declared. We are the legitimate government of this galaxy. We will not be replaced by chaos and anarchy. You are not being replaced, Echo of Earth replied. You are being bypassed. There is a difference. What does that mean? It means that while you continue your debates and studies and procedures, we will continue saving lives. It means that while you form committees to analyze problems, we will fix those problems. It means that while you preserve your authority over nothing, we will build everything. The truth of it hit the council like a physical blow. The humans were not interested in conquering them. They were not interested in ruling them. They were not even interested in replacing them. They were simply ignoring them. Civilizations across the galaxy are already contacting us directly, Echo of Earth continued. They are asking for help with problems you have been studying for centuries. They are requesting assistance with crises you have been managing into extinction. They are no longer waiting for your permission to be saved. On the display screens, confirmation appeared. Direct communications from dozens of worlds, hundreds of civilizations, all requesting immediate human assistance, all bypassing the council entirely. You have made yourselves irrelevant, Echo of Earth said, and there was something like sadness in their impossible voice. You have chosen procedure over people so many times that people have stopped believing you care about them. They are right not to believe it. In his chair, Junior Counselor Zektar felt tears running down his face. Beside him, Counselor Yithara's light was dim with shame. Across the hall, old Counselor Nexar stood and began walking toward the exit. Where are you going? Called First Speaker Korath. To tender my resignation, Nexar replied without turning around. I have served this council for 800,000 years. I have watched it grow from a dozen species seeking cooperation into 847 species seeking authority over others. He stopped at the doorway and looked back one final time. The humans were right when they left. They were right when they returned. And they are right now when they ignore us. We have become everything we claim to stand against. We have become the chaos that prevents solutions. We have become the disorder that stops progress. I will not be part of it anymore. He left. Within an hour, 60 other delegates followed him out the door. On the screens, the human fleet continued its work, fixing stars, healing worlds, saving civilizations, building the future that the Council had spent 800,000 years preventing. Echo of Earth's final words to the Council were simple. We told you we would return when you needed us. We have returned. We have offered our help. You have refused it in favor of maintaining your failing authority over a dying galaxy. So we will save the galaxy without you. In 1,000 years, when the civilizations we have helped are thriving and growing and building wonders you cannot imagine, they will remember who helped them and who failed them. They will remember who chose to act and who chose to debate while people died. They will remember who returned when they were needed and who expelled those who would have helped them. And you will discover what it means to be irrelevant in a galaxy that has moved on without you. The transmission ended. The human fleet dispersed to continue its work across the galaxy. And in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council continued to debate what to do about a situation they could no longer control. They had 800,000 years to learn. They had failed the test.